Welcome back to our Line Opinion panelists to one final discussion. The largest wildfire in state history is now 100% contained. The Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire is finally under control, but some lingering impacts are creating another disaster in northern New Mexico. Heavy rains are rushing through the burn scar, bringing ash and debris with them. That ash and debris has contaminated drinking water in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Now, thankfully, this week a new piece of equipment did arrive there to help restore the city's treatment system, but of course, this is all a consequence of U.S. Forest Service action that started the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire in the first place. Senator Feldman, we start here. Should the federal government be held responsible? I know they want to reseed, but our Senator Lujan's looking for a little bit more. Are you looking for more from the feds as well?
Yes, yes, they need to pay the total bill.
Oh, wow.
And, for everything. I'm worried about whether they're going to do that, particularly as time goes by and we might see a change in leadership in the U.S. House. That might make it less urgent as well. So they need to make Las Vegas whole in terms of drinking water in particular.
That's right. Algernon, interesting point the senator made that the entire federal response, as you know and everybody knows, runs through FEMA, which the senator said was not necessarily set up to deal with disasters like this one. That's an interesting point there. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
No, I think that really kind of reflects our shift in thinking about the climatic conditions. And I think the challenge we have been connecting these conditions to the broader context of climate change. I mean, obviously there's blame to be cast on government agencies for the catastrophe in New Mexico this summer, but the context, the accelerator, to use a bad metaphor, is our worsening drought conditions, our lengthening and intensifying heat waves. These are the things that are driving down our fuel moisture and turning much of New Mexico into a tinderbox. And so, no, FEMA was not once upon a time set up like a lot of federal agencies. The agencies to whom it falls to help with some of the mitigation of the damage, to help make ranchers whole in Catron County and Grant County, where we're recovering from the Black Fire this summer, the state's second largest wildfire in history.
Good point.
A lot of these agencies to whom that mitigation falls are just not funded for all of the need. And this is just in New Mexico. We're not the only state that saw fires. And so FEMA's not prepared, and really federal agencies across the board are not prepared. But hello, this is where we are.
Rebecca, interestingly, when it comes to the water situation in Vegas that we opened the segment with, infrastructure is at the root of the problem. We expected flooding. People expected flooding. Could we have done more to get in front of this? I mean, flooding's happened in a lot of places for a lot of years. It's not as if this is the first one.
Yeah, I think going back centuries ago, we could have done more to prevent the flooding and everything that's happening now. I mean, there's just so much evidence of how government inaction has played time and time again, played a major role in not having the healthiest possible forests, and allowing overgrazing, allowing logging on such a major scale. I mean, it's incredibly important that we thin forests. I mean, we at Girl Scouts own 2 huge camp properties, one in the Jemez Mountains, one in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And we work with our federal partners on funding some thinning projects. It's so good, it's healthy, it's wonderful. I don't know why it's not happening more, because we know that those thinning projects are critical to healthy forests. So I think the other, real big tragedy, again, with government inaction, we were able with the pandemic, there were economists who were able to say early on in the pandemic, in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be experiencing inflation and a recession. And they could predict that all of these things were going to happen, right? So why weren't we able to predict that New Mexico's our cultural heritage that has led us to so many New Mexicans owning property that they didn't have adequately insured, or sharing property, or not having the resources or the paperwork or whatever they need in order to receive federal funding. Like that's it, like insult to injury. Why didn't we know if a fire hits this area, these are all the things that are going to go wrong, and then get ahead of it there too?
That's right. That's right. Good point there. Senator, Rebecca's reminding me of the situation that folks who family land grant holders here in New Mexico find themselves in now, in a real sort of a vice. The system set up for, making whole single family homeowners, business owners. There's a big crack that land grant people have fallen into here. Is this an opportunity to get a little more clarity on how our relationship between the federal government, state government, and land grant owners we can take this and tighten this up a little bit, it seems to me. What's your thought on that?
Well, certainly land grants, New Mexico acequias, are very severely impacted by this fire and now by flooding. Mm-hmm. And I heard an interview recently with somebody up there, I think near Rosiada, which has really been impacted by the floods. And they basically said they had received a grant from FEMA, and all it allowed them to do was to clear the land. There was no question of rebuilding. It was just to clear the debris away, and that was their allotment.
Wow.
And so, faced with that, I think, there's a lot of psychological damage to a way of life up there in northern New Mexico.
Yep.
And it's going to take a long time to recover from that, as well as, maybe building some small check dams so that with our own capital outlay funds, so this kind of flooding can't happen again. Mm-hmm. But one thing I noticed, a hopeful thing, is that the New Mexico Human Services Department recognizes this, and they're now offering free counseling for people in the affected areas. And I hope people will take advantage of that. It's available through the Human Services website.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, the emotional response of losing everything you've had in your family for generations. I mean, come on now. Algernon, we've all seen the situation developing in Jackson, Mississippi, where flooding caused the water pumps to fail, and hundreds of thousands in the city are without running water. It seems to be a national problem, but was the last infrastructure deal enough to address, or do we need to take a harder look specifically at drinking water in the infrastructure around it?
There's a lot of unknowns,
yeah.
And what infrastructure we'll need, in part, it also depends on sources, and where we're going to be deriving our water sources is in the process of change. Some of this is in the courts. Arizona and Nevada are looking at having to change their expectations of what they can expect from the river. There's a settlement being negotiated in federal court now involving the Rio Grande and Texas, and a long-running dispute between Texas and New Mexico, with Colorado also involved. The Colorado River is changing. Albuquerque has had to stop tapping into the Rio Grande for some of the water that it depends on. Mm-hmm. I live in Luna County, and where we had a debate for a few years recently about a possible diversion of the Gila River. And what that debate really laid bare is that in 30 to 40 years, it's not clear what Luna County will be using to irrigate crops or even using for municipal use. Wow. And so part of it is just, there's a lot we don't know yet about sources and what's going to become of agriculture. Yeah. And that's not just about water sources, it's also about the heat waves that have already been mentioned on this program. When we're looking at, for instance, projected temperatures in America's breadbasket, the Central Valley of California, exceeding 104 degrees for periods of time, 104 degrees is the process where photosynthesis can no longer take place.
That's right.
The enzymes break down and they cannot move the way they need to for photosynthesis. Yeah. How is that going to affect crops? And so what we'll have to irrigate, much less what we'll have to irrigate with in the American West, is going to be changing a lot. So how do you plan for infrastructure in an orderly manner 10, 20, 50 years into the future?
That's
you don't
right.
really.
That's a good point there. We're going to have to think way out there now as opposed to the next 5 or 10 years. Thanks again to our line panel. All right, this week, be sure to let us know what you think about any of the topics the line covered on our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages.